What's up, everybody? Welcome in to a very special edition. We say it every time, D, but this one's extra special. The Canes are in the Final Four. We're reporting live here from South Miami, Coral Gables, whatever you want to call it. We're here, and we're in the Final Four. D, you like the matchups that we had when we talked about it last week. Miami throttles Houston, and they really battled tonight against Texas to come out with a win. Wow. Final Four bound.
That's right. Pete, live from Sunset Tavern. So, by the way, we're getting a new CanesInSight studio, so you're going to hear some crystal audio. This is all about the feel. My man is in Sunset Tavern. He doesn't even know where he is right now.
Instant reaction, baby. Instant reaction, baby. It's euphoria. It's euphoria in the Gables, man.
It's been a long time coming, and what a game. You know, talking about the matchups, this defense has been slept on. They were asleep themselves the first half of this game, probably the first 3 quarters of this game. But, man, once that defense locked in and the comeback started, you could feel it happening. That was that box out where Omier just wanted it more, and Texas got pushed his butt into him and fouled him. That was, you knew something special was happening. And, man, this is such an awesome feeling, such a deserved feeling for this team. The emotion, the love that Larinaga got from his players. Every team is not like that with that bond between coach and player. There's a special team, a special coach. He's climbing that Canes all-time list as far as sports figures, taking this team to the Final Four from the Miami Arena with Marcus Barnes and all those, no one in the crowd, to what you're seeing now. It's something special, Pete. I know you've been waiting a long time.
Indeed, down 8 at halftime. I mean, Texas was hitting every shot. Their defense, you got to give them credit for what they were doing to kind of disrupt Miami offensively. And then Isaiah Wong, 2 points in the first half. They keep highlighting how he's struggling, how they're locking him down, and then he starts hitting shots, highly contested mid-range jump shots out of nowhere. Omier battles through those foul issues, right, which, you saw Coach L taking him out early in the first half, and I think there were some people kind of questioning why wasn't he playing the whole time. He picked up a couple fouls early in the second half. He had 4 fouls, and he was able to play with those fouls very effectively deep into that second half.
Yeah, I mean, that turnover, the strip of the ball, I mean, that was if the box out and that rebound foul wasn't the play of the game, that strip probably was. And that was a risky play, but he knew what he was doing. It's just so many guys you can name because
Mr. Perfect, Jordan Miller, baby.
You got to start there. Jordan Miller did not miss a shot all night. Amazing defense, showed you the whole bag with the footwork, with the bank shots, with the shooting, at the line, the drives. He really did it all. And he was one of the guys they talked about in the post-game interview. He felt the pain last year. He's not a transfer. I mean, he's a transfer, but he's not a this-year transfer. So he was there last year. He felt that loss, and to come all the way back and redeem himself, not that he needed redemption. He was already a stud, but this really took it to a new level. Awesome to see. Wong, you mentioned, people were doubting him. The group chats were blowing up, people complaining about Wong, and then he showed you who he was. Omier did what he does with the hustle.
And did a Poplar hit? How many tough, contested, pull-up jump shots did Poplar hit that, listen, if those shots don't go in, the momentum swings the other way, and we may not be here right now.
It was probably the most delicate part of the game as far as this potentially being a blowout or just a game that was going to get away from Miami totally. And Poplar was hitting shots and really got it going and got the energy back. And even Nigel Pack, he wasn't like he was in the Houston game where he was making shots from all over the place. But some of those drives, some of those plays he made when Miami was just kind of hanging on to that 10-point deficit were also huge. By the way, if you hear my kids in the background, I was supposed to put them to bed while my wife was at yoga, but this is an emergency podcast. This is Canes in the Final Four. These kids can wait. They can fall asleep at school tomorrow. It's a special moment.
Baby, we're going to Houston. We need all the ruckus we can get.
All right, we're back. Had to send my kids to bed. They're not happy about it, but everybody wants to be celebrating like Pete in Sunset Tavern and the rest of Coral Gables in Miami celebrating this win. But, let's talk about the resilience of this team. Being down, not just the fact that they were down, but the fact that it was a frustrating game on the defensive end. Texas was making every single shot. Some of them were open. Some of them were good ball movement. Some of them were just great shots and great shot making. What do you tell about the character of this team that you've seen really throughout the year, from the beginning and pre-conference play to what we're seeing now?
there was no flinch in this team. I mean, like you said, Nigel Pack wasn't. Listen, Miami wasn't getting the opportunities from the outside that they were getting against Houston. It was a different game plan that Texas was throwing at them in terms of the ball pressure up front and really having to grind out these possessions. And by the way, it was more so on the defensive end than the offensive end. Miami's offense, yes, there were some tough stretches throughout this game, but if you really break it down, there was a stretch there through the first 10 minutes of the first half that you were saying, man, are they going to get a stop? Because you know, the refs were calling a lot. Both teams were in the double bonus very early on in that second half. And it came down to the defensive end, and they did not flinch. Like I said before, Omir getting the 4 fouls and coming back in with 8.5 minutes left and staying out of getting another foul was a miraculous event in itself. But I point back to Coach L and the composure that he showed, because every time they showed him on the sidelines, it was the same old Coach L, right? He's not waving his hands, throwing his hands up in the air, yelling more than he normally would. The team reflects what the coach is giving them. And Larinaga's experiences, not only with this team last year, but what he's done leading George Mason to the Final Four, 1,000% came into play here. Every time they showed Rodney Terry at Texas, he looked a little concerned. He was moving all over the place. He had a little bit of extra energy. Obviously, you know, he's probably going to get that head coaching job over there after their run. But today, Coach L was the one who showed his composure in these moments.
Miami taking over the state of Texas, first takedown Houston, the hometown Final Four team. They don't make it there. Then Texas gets an early exit. So Miami really taking it to the state of Texas. You know, when you look at this particular team, obviously it's gone further than any Miami Hurricane team. I would say it's the best Miami Hurricane team ever. You've seen every Hurricane team. I know you've been season ticket holder since forever. What makes this particular team different in the way that they've done more really than any other team before? What makes them that much more special?
The balance in this team. The balance in this team is 100% the difference maker. You go back to all the, you know, I can't say that I was watching the Darius Rice team that was you know, a Sweet 16 team, but Jack McClinton teams were all Jack McClinton centered. You have the Shane Larkin team. That was a very well-balanced team, right? But other than Larkin, there was not a guy who could really create off the dribble and go get a shot for himself, right? So Larkin being an undersized guard, are you going to rely on that for the entire tournament? It was tough. And I saw against Marquette in that game that they played, the shots weren't falling. They didn't have it. The Angel Rodriguez, Sheldon McClellan team, very similar situation. Those two guys could go get their bucket, but how deep was that team and how cohesive of a unit were they really? This Miami team plays to their strengths and they play to each other's strengths, right? They know how to rely on each other when the offense isn't necessarily, you know, hitting on all cylinders. Jordan Miller can go get a bucket when he needs to. Isaiah Wong, when things got tight in that second half, the offense was not flowing, he could go get a bucket if he needed to. Nigel Pack took Miami last round to where they are now. And he had some crucial moments in tonight's game too. A lot of guys who can go get their own buckets and know how to play cohesively as a unit. And then you said it, I believe it was last podcast, Steve. This is a modern basketball lineup. You look at what Omir does, both sides of the floor, right? His activity on the glass, and just his pure athleticism. I mean, listen, this is a team who can spread you out. Most of the guys can hit shots, and then you have a guy like Wooga Poplar, who again, he's not someone that you would expect to get 20 points a night, but he was keeping Miami alive for most of this game. He was hitting very shots.
Yeah, as far as, you know, I was able to see some of those Darius Rice teams and some of those older teams that had initial tournament success. And to me, the biggest difference with this team is the athleticism top to bottom of the guys that play and the intelligence and the emotional composure of those athletes. Miami has smart premium athletes. Omir, you heard Kelvin Sampson in the last game talking about how intelligent he is. You can see the athleticism as well. Wong, the composure to be able to come back and do what he did, even though he wasn't starting strong. Pack, able to find his game. Miller, all the things he does. And then Poplar and Bensley Joseph, who, shout out to him as far as putting his body on the line. I mean, he took a nasty spill. He really wanted it and showed you just what he brought to the table from a hustle standpoint. So that to me is the difference of this team is
he missed those 2 free throws early in the game, comes back, makes the next 2, and stood right in there.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the difference. And then, as far as this is a Hall of Fame coach on the sideline. It's one thing to go to a Kentucky or a Kansas and just recruit the McDonald's All-America list and then say you're the best coach in the country. But when you take George Mason, which really paved the way for San Diego State and for FAU to do what they did today.
VCU and Butler and all those teams that have made these runs.
That didn't happen before. That was not a thing that happened before Larrañaga. So he was the first one to break through that way. And then to do what he's doing at Miami, which is a program that almost dropped basketball. It's really like if Kentucky became the best football program in the SEC. What would you be doing with that coach? You'd be putting him in the Hall of Fame, still coaching. Larrañaga's like that as far as what this run in Miami means. And then, of course, what he's done in the past. Just a phenomenal coach. So, Pete, real quick before we wrap up, again, as someone who's lived and died with this program, the basketball program, who's traveling to Houston now, what went through a lot of Canes fans listening are like that. They believe this basketball program. What was the feeling like?
This was an emotional win. I can't lie. I cried tears of joy, man. I'm tearing up right now, man. This meant a lot for the people who did not believe when it was the Convocation Center, when it was the Bank United Center, and now it's the Watsco Center. We're in the Final Four, and we got a puncher's chance. Everyone's talking about UConn. Everyone's talking about Houston. Everyone's talking about Texas. Indiana, blue blood program. I like Miami's chances against UConn. Haven't broken anything down. Sanogo's a great player. Hurley's a great coach. I like Miami's chances. Let's go battle Saturday night in Houston. I'll be there, everybody. If you want to see me out there, hit me up. I'll be there. And I'll be ready to go to battle, and I'll be ready to go to war like the rest of our Canes, man. Let's go.
I love it. More than a puncher's chance, baby. Miami's a heavyweight. Miami's a heavyweight. They've been beating heavyweights all the way through. Just beat another heavyweight. UConn is the new favorite after Houston got knocked out, and after Texas got knocked out. Now the new favorite's UConn. I like the Canes. I'm picking them. I hope the rest of the country doesn't pick them and keeps not picking them.
You see it. More guards than Shawshank.
More guards than Shawshank, baby.
Shout out to John Rothstein, baby.
Hey, keep it locked on the CanesInSight podcast. We got a ton of content coming away. New CanesInsight on the way. We're going to be talking spring football. We're going to be talking recruiting, and guaranteed we're going to be talking about this huge matchup with UConn all week and breaking it down. So stay tuned. Go to Underdog Fantasy, promo code CIS. Put some money on one of these players to go off because someone's going off. And thanks for sticking with us. Go Canes.
Let's go win the whole thing, baby. Go Canes.
Pete, drink some water tonight. Okay.